The European Union is now open to discussing waiving intellectual property protections for COVID-19 vaccines. This after the United States Biden administration declared its support for the patent waiver on COVID-19 vaccines to boost their production and distribution around the world. This will, however, not take place immediately, as it has to be approved by consensus at the World Trade Organization. Pharmaceutical companies, powerful individuals and governments in high-income countries are still strongly opposed to the waiver, with or without compensation.
The European Union's decision to discuss waiving intellectual property protections for COVID-19 vaccines and any proposals that address the crisis comes after the Biden administration declared its support for the waivers Wednesday. A patent, which is a government authority or license, confers a right or title for a set period, especially the sole right to exclude others from making, using or selling an invention, and allows the originator to be financially rewarded. This is a global health crisis, and the extraordinary circumstances of the COVID-19 pandemic call for extraordinary measures, end of quote, read the statement in part released Wednesday by Catherine Tai, the U.S. Trade Representative, further stating that the current Biden administration believes strongly in intellectual protections, but in service of ending this pandemic, supports the waiver of those protections for COVID-19 vaccines.
At the WTO, are you going to back that? Is the U.S. government
Yes, I'm going to talk about that later today, yes.
WHO Director General Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus called this a monumental moment in the fight against COVID-19 and a powerful example of leadership to address global health challenges. This doesn't mean that U.S. pharmaceutical companies must start giving away vaccine formulas so that developing countries can make their own. If intellectual property rules are overridden, other countries can manufacture generic versions of the coronavirus vaccines, diagnostics and medicines without the risk of being sued by pharmaceutical companies and entities that own IP. Such countries wouldn't have to wait in line while pharmaceutical companies fulfill orders from rich countries who have the resources to do so. Not having a full waiver would also mean additional licensing agreements, more vaccine doses donated, or doses sold at a reduced cost. Brazil's Senate Thursday approved a bill to suspend patent protection for COVID-19 vaccines, tests and medications during the pandemic, sending the proposal to the lower house of Congress for consideration and possible amendments. Brazil's government has since last year strongly opposed the waiver, arguing that such a move could endanger talks with vaccine producers. Likewise, Britain is discussing ways of increasing production and supply of COVID-19 vaccines with the United States and the World Trade Organization. India and South Africa put forward the proposal in November 2020 to waive certain provisions of WTO's agreement on trade-related aspects of intellectual property rights, TRIPS. This is often called the TRIPS waiver. More than 100 other countries have since supported that call. EU countries, the UK, Switzerland, Canada, Australia, Norway and Japan have been opposed. Drug manufacturers including Pfizer and Moderna opposed the waiver, saying that easing patent rules could actually backfire, creating a further backlog for limited vaccine ingredients and impeding response to emerging variants, further giving China and Russia access to trade secrets and more ammunition for their aggressive global vaccine diplomacy. Another big opponent is Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates and is a fierce defender of IP protection. The International Federation of Pharmaceutical Manufacturers and Associations also says that waiving patents on COVID-19 vaccines is the wrong answer to a complex problem and called for more technology transfer agreements instead. The waiver, however, is just one tool and does not offer a blanket solution. It will still take a long time for governments to set up factories, train staff, and procure materials to make vaccines. Once all World Trade Organization members agree, the next step would be for countries to implement it at the national level by removing legal risks that hinder production and supply by alternative producers. Dorcas Wangira, Citizen TV, Nairobi.